Here we go. Carolina Reaper spiced barbecue beef brisket. So we're starting at very cold temp. I smoke my meat just let me close that. Just when they're thawed. We've got our flames going. We've got temperature, so it's coming back up to temp. This is 300, but because I opened it, dropped. But as you can see, it's starting to come back up to life. It's climbing. There's our chingado smokestack. So right now it's 8:45. I usually start my smoking day at 9 a.m. so I can keep track of what a long smoke time looks like. And normally for meat that big takes me somewhere between 14, 16, sometimes 18 hours. Depends on the meat. And brisket is very temperamental. Sometimes they're nice to you, and sometimes they're a bitch. So yeah, it's a waiting game. So this is my chingado smoker. It's a beast. I've got my supply of coals, I've got my wood. So I use a mix of both wood and coal when I smoke. Coal to keep the temp, wood to flavor. Yeah. So this smoker is a couple of months old now. So you can see it's being used very well. I'm cooking for family and friends, and just very recently I've started doing brisket sales. So hopefully we can keep it up, and hopefully people continue liking our briskets. They pair really well with our sauces, and that's exactly the philosophy of chingado. Now, many of you may ask, or many of you may know, that the word chingado comes from the Spanish. Forgive my gloves, I've been rubbing my brisket, but comes from the Spanish word chingar, which means the F word. So chingado is the F word upped. It's effed up. But that's not what I intended to be. Chingado has a core philosophy that all our ingredients will have elements of certain things. So chi is for the chilies, ga because we've got garlic, and do is because of our asado line. So asado is the barbecue, carne asado, and so those are the three main things that we produce in the chingado kitchen: chilies, garlic, carne asado, and sauce asado. There we go. I'm going to update you every now and then on the progress of my smoke. As you can see, my temp is now at 250, which is where I want to be. 250 on both sides of the chamber. That's where I want to be. I'm gonna clean off, and then a couple of hours later I'll give you an update on what's happening with the brisket. I cannot open this chamber now, but yeah, let me show you what happens in a bit. Okay, so Meat is in the smoker. Um, Now, here's another thing that I do every time I smoke. This is my chingado notes. So it contains my recipes as well as timekeeping record of all my smokes. So this is my little black book of everything chingado. This is my recipe book. This is my record book. This is the book where I write down the names of the people I will call upon for a special favor one day. What to do now? It is 9 o'clock. So today is the 21st of March 2021. When I write the time. So time. I have two cuts of meat. So naturally I probe both of them. Right? So I have the brisket 1 and brisket 2. I record the temperature of each brisket as well as the chamber because I need to be able to monitor the temperature inside my cooking chamber, the both radiant and the convective heat, and that's important for me. So it is 9 o'clock. Both of them are starting out at 0. Why? Because I'm putting them inside the smoker as cold as possible, right? And the reason why I choose to put cold meat inside inside the smoker is simply because I want, number one, the meat to stay firm. It's very difficult to trim meat that has been warming up, and the weather here where I am right now is extremely hot and humid. So you don't want any piece of meat outside of the freezer or outside of the fridge for a very long time. A, because it's unsafe, and B, because it is very difficult to work on a warm piece of meat in terms of trimming the fat away, in terms of cutting, squaring it out and cutting the edges. I prefer working with meat that's as near frozen as possible. That way, when you slice through the fat, it cuts like butter. When you cut the meat, edges of the meat, and square it away, it's the knife runs smoothly. It prevents a lot of injuries for me because then I don't have to hack through the fat and hack through the meat and risk my knife slicing through and hitting my fingers in the process. And at the same time, it's just nice to, pat a nice cold piece of meat. It is what it is. It is inside the smoker. My smoker temperature right now is 275. I go with Fahrenheit because it's just easier to maintain and monitor the 5-degree, 10-degree increments with Fahrenheit as compared to Celsius, because 275 degrees Fahrenheit should be around 71 degrees Celsius. So I would much prefer 5 increments of 5 and 10. It is what it is. Now, I've got a little giveaway happening very soon. This is a very nice kitchen knife, survival knife, hunting knife, jungle knife, whatever knife you want to use it for. Fishing knife, Poggy Points knife. And so I am going to do a giveaway on this knife here on the channel, all you need to do is subscribe, share the page, and get more people to subscribe. Like my videos, put on the notifications, and in 1 month's time or less than 1 month's time is going to be Moa's birthday, and a birthday giveaway is going to be this little knifey thingy. Okay, so this is made in Japan, hand forged in Japan. The blade is very thick, the knife is very sharp, and it's full tang blade. So as you can see, it runs straight throughout with a very nice ergonomic rosewood handle. So you can hold it like this and hack if you want to hack. I wouldn't suggest it, wink wink. Or you can stick your pointer finger on that hole for more control, and basically you can hold a huge hunk of bone and cut through it, no problem at all, right? It follows your wrist movement. When you're holding a knife, don't do this, because this is the least control when you're holding a knife. And I see a lot of people holding knives and slicing things like that. The best way is to grip it as such. Now, this is designed so that if you don't want to grip it as such, you can just stick that in, hold it, and it gives you a lot of wrist control over that knife. So you have your meat, you have your shawarma, or when you're cutting your vegetables, when you're cutting everything, or you can fillet your fish. Very nice knife. So you know what to do. Follow the channel, subscribe, share it with folks, comment on the videos, turn on the notification bell, and you might just be the lucky winner of this Chingado knife. April 15 is when we draw the winner. Back to the smoking. Nothing much happening. And as it is, nothing much is going to happen. Maybe for, I don't know, the next 10 hours. And then after that, we will probably get to the wrapping temperature. And that's the first time that I'm going to open my smoker. The temperature dictates what I do with a smoker. Right now, it's telling me, keep it like that, don't do anything, sit and relax, do some vlogging, hydrate, and it is what it is. Now, as soon as I reach my first target temperature, that's when I open it, give it a little spritz, just to keep the moisture, wrap it, shut it down again, and set to my second target temperature. I do that, it's me being me, because I'm a process-oriented guy and I'm a quality manager in my previous life. So I do that so that I have checks along the way, with minimum interaction with the meat. It guarantees that the meat remains moist, remains tender. Bike riders being very noisy outside the gate. It's Sunday, they never learn. They like doing their stuff. Live and let live. Right, I'm gonna talk to you in a bit. I'm blabbering now, I don't know what I'm saying, but yeah, it is what it is. It's now 2 in the afternoon. Let me give you an update on our brisket smoke. So I started the brisket at near cold or near freezing temperature. On the first hour of the smoke, which was around 10 in the morning, the first brisket already came up to 10. the second brisket took a bit longer. So it took it about an hour and a half to come to temperature. And when I say come to temperature, it means to get to at least 51 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the room temp of beef. So right now, our smoker is running at 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and first meat is at 150, and the second meat is at 144. My first target temperature is 160 Fahrenheit. When I get to that point, I'm going to open for the first time our smoker. So in this smoke, I'm expecting, at the rate that it's going right now, it should take me around 6-7 hours, so around 4 in the afternoon to open it, give it a little spritz, and then maybe wrap it and cook it until it's tender. So after that point, I don't really follow temperatures anymore. I mean, I still need to get to a safe temperature, but what's more important to me is the tenderness of the meat. So I don't want it to continue smoking and smoking until all the juices have evaporated. But at the same time, I don't want it to be tough. And there's, I need to find that balance. So my guide is to reach about 197 degrees Fahrenheit, and from there I start poking it. So when the meat hits that sweet spot of tenderness, then I pull it out and I rest it for a couple of hours before cutting into it and before packing it. Now, resting period depends on how long I smoked my meat. So I usually follow a third of the smoking time just to get those juices to redistribute back into the muscle fibers of the beef. So if I smoke for 12 hours, I would rest it for somewhere between 3 to 3.5 hours. If I smoked it longer, then yeah, I would also rest it longer, and that just allows the meat to reabsorb the juices, and ensuring that it's moist when you cut it. And you've probably seen some of my videos and some of my pictures that when I slice through the brisket, even after 7 hours, juices were still oozing out, and that's what we want to happen. Now, I've been sitting here for that long a time now, 6 hours, and I think this is just a third of the way. If I forecast an 18-hour smoke, hopefully not, but it can go either way. I also talked for briefly about the types of heat. So there's the radiant heat, there's the conductive heat, and there's the convective heat that happens inside a smoker. The conductive heat is what happens when the grill or the grate that you put your meat on becomes hot. It conducts the heat, and so when you put the meat on, you'll hear a sizzle, and that means it's hot. So that's the conductive type of heat. The convective heat is what the heat that runs around the entire chamber of the smoker, and that is what cooks our meat. So the conductive heat creates that crust, creates that barrier, and seals the meat, whereas the convective heat revolves around the smoker and in the process cooks the meat, and that carries the smoke and then it goes out of the chimney of the smokestack. Radiant heat is from the door of the chamber box where the flame comes in. So that heat that comes direct from the flames is what you call radiant heat. It radiates, moving towards the meat and then escapes out. So these three types of heat transfer is critical to making sure that the brisket remains tender. Now remember, brisket is a huge hunk of meat, and it's a very tough hunk of meat. So these three types of heat transfer ensures that your brisket, A, remains tender, B, is juicy, and C, that all the connective tissues, all the connective fibers of the beef gets loosened, and all the collagen in the middle of each of the muscle fiber is melted and rendered out, and that makes sure that you have a very nice and very juicy, very tender piece of brisket. So we have reached our target temp. The temperature that we wanted was 160. We're now at 162 on the first brisket, 161 on the second brisket. Our chamber is running at 250 degrees, and I think it's time to wrap. And for the very first time in 7 hours, we are going to see how our brisket looks like. You ready? Check this out. 3, 2, 1. No, 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 no. Look at that thing of beauty. Okay, so here's the thing also. Many people wrap their briskets in foil or in butcher's paper, but I put my briskets here. Gloves important, so that, as you can see, we still have a lot of time to go for this brisket to be done. Okay, let's do this one first, because we have two briskets. Check that out. Isn't she lovely? So there's one brisket here. Come right here, come right here. You're wandering off. Isn't she lovely? Isn't she pretty? All right. So two briskets getting ready for the wrap and roll. All right, now here we go. We need to do this as quick as we can because temperature is important. That's how we wrap our brisket. Now, this is a very unconventional way of wrapping briskets. Why? Because many people don't wrap their briskets this way. Let me take that off quickly and reinsert that again on the thickest, juiciest part. And there she is. There she is. Now, needs to go back. So you see, folks, time is very important when we are cooking. Close that. Wrap our second brisket. Again, we need to work quick. Oh my. Okay, pause the video now, please. Right, so let's talk about wood. Wood is important for smoking because the smoke that comes from the wood imparts flavor on your meat. So depending on the type of meat, I adjust the type of wood that I use. Now, in the United States, there are plenty of wood that are very popular with barbecue pitmasters. Most popular being oak and hickory, and a lot of nut producing trees like pecan and mesquite is also popular. Of course, fruit trees like apple and cherry are also used depending on the pitmaster and depending on the type of meat that they're cooking. Now, in the Philippines, I don't have access to a lot of those wood because A, they're very expensive to purchase. B, a lot of stores don't sell them and they don't even know those wood. There are plenty of pitmasters around the country and they have created their own ways and means of procuring their wood for smoking. Like I mentioned early today, I use a mixture of coal and wood. And most of the wood that I use for my smoke are local wood. I have experimented in the last few months as to which type of wood is good for smoking meat, and I found three types, and I've actually hoarded these three types of wood because they're now my absolute favorite, and in my opinion, far better than the many types of wood that I used to smoke that I purchased from American stores. So they're better than hickory. They're better than, I don't use mesquite anyway because I find mesquite too bitter. They're better than applewood. They're better than cherrywood, in my opinion. So, what are those types of wood? One, I've got down here. So they're not yet ready for smoking. They're still being seasoned. So this is tamarind. Tamarind wood amazingly smells like bread when it's being fed on the firebox. The smoke that comes out of tamarind smells like a bakery. It burns hot, it burns long, and it has a really, really, really good flavor. And I use tamarind a lot for my briskets. The other type of wood that I use is what I have inside my pit right now, and that is a fruit that's called santol in the Philippines. That is the santol tree. In some of the villages here, they have cleared the roads and fell a lot of santol trees in the last few months. It grows abundantly on the roadsides, and the fruit is sour, and it's really good. But the public roads and transport system, public highways and roads, have started clearing the side of the roads for road expansion. So they fell a lot of these santol wood and a lot of the tamarind wood. Santol has a very good flavor too. It has a sour aroma to it, but it doesn't really affect the meat so much. It burns fast, it burns hot. So a hunk of wood like that burns for about an hour before it disappears. But the good thing is it's excellent with maintaining temperature, but you have to use a lot of it because it burns really quick. And I like the flavor. So this is what I use when I start my fire because it burns quick. It has high oil content. And this is what I also use when I already wrap my brisket to keep my temperatures up because it burns very, very hot. In between that, I use tamarind because tamarind imparts the flavor to my meat. The third type of wood that I am still seasoning is called the star apple. Now, I don't have a lot of it, and the star apple wood burns kind of similar to tamarind wood. So that's the star apple. Those are the santol wood, and I've got my tamarind wood over here. So the star apple wood burns somewhat similar to tamarind. It burns long, but it doesn't have much flavor. So I use it for temperature management inside my firebox. When I want to keep a steady temperature for a couple of hours, then I don't have to touch it. It's excellent. So you see the size of my smoker. It's an irregular sized smoker. It's huge. It's massive. So in order to keep the temperature constant and consistent at 300 all the time, I need wood that actually burns consistently. And I'm glad that I have an abundant supply of these local wood here in the Philippines. So that's santol. There's tamarind all over the place. So there's tamarind over there. There's tamarind over there that I'm seasoning. I still can't use them. And then we have santol. And if you look around me, so all those are tamarind, and that's santol. And somewhere in the back over there, we also have a star apple tree. So we've got plenty of supply. And I'm quite glad that, you know, we live in an area where we don't have to worry so much about importing American barbecue wood. So yeah, it is our choice now for cooking, and the flavor is really good. I think if guys in America have access to this, you should definitely give it a try. I think Florida or some of the southern states, the tropical weather states, might have tamarind. They might even have santol and star apple. Give it a try. It's a great alternative to the usual wood that are being used for smoking right now. And I think they're also very sustainable because they grow abundantly and they grow so fast. They season well too. You don't have to wait too long because they dry up pretty fast. We have to remember it rains a lot in the Philippines and it's very humid, so that affects the seasoning of my wood, but it affects it in a positive way. Okay, so we are now on I think the 10th hour of our smoke. The meat are currently at 176 and 178, very consistent. The chamber is at 300, very consistent. And I just threw in another hunk of that santol wood to help my fire. So yeah, that's it. We'll catch up later when we have a finished product. You have to remember, this is Carolina Reaper spiced barbecue beef brisket. Carolina Reaper taken from some of those Carolina Reaper here, fruit over there. And I also have a habanero over there and some ghost chili peppers. Yeah. The only thing that I did not grow here is the beef. But soon we will have our own beef. See you in a bit. Okay. It's now midnight. So I started at 8. 16 hours. 16 hours later, we are done. We have a cooked product. Ah, would you look at that? Huh. Okay, I don't want to expose it too much because that still needs to rest. But let's take a look. So I will probably. Oh la la! What a beautiful brisket. So we will find out in the morning what is going to happen with these beautiful babies. So I need to shut down our smoker. Still running at 300. You see it's still red hot inside. But yeah, very nice night. We are done smoking. We will cut tomorrow, we will taste it tomorrow, and we will pack it tomorrow for shipping. Alright, this has been an amazing day. And I'm the Chingado Master, saying good night, good morning to everyone. Okay, before I say good night, good night. This is what I call the pitmaster privilege. It's always look at that bark. That bark. So I always cut off a tiny small tip, tiny small slice from the tip, and just taste it. Quality assurance. Make sure that it's tender, it's tasty, flavor is good, right amount of smoke, and it's juicy. I don't want to send this out to my customers and they'll be upset, right? I mean, look at that bark, look at the shine on that bark, look at the smoke ring, and look at the tenderness. So this is the burnt end. Normally, I cook the burnt end again with sugar and some barbecue sauce. But we shall see tomorrow. I might be able to cook a few. I have to, so the meat's over there, they're resting. There's a good spice. So this is my Carolina Reaper spiced barbecue brisket, and the spice is amazing. It doesn't like explode in your mouth. It's very, very mellow. I think the smoke did it a lot of good. But you feel it. It lets its presence known in your mouth. And I think that's very good. So that's it for the whole smoke rundown. I need to take a shower. I need to write packing labels. I need to edit this video. And I need to sleep. This is Chingado Master. Pit Master. Good night, folks.